Hi guys, how are you doing? I'm doing another video about things that I feel, relatively strongly about in terms of games and gaming and stuff like that. It basically is about one specific game, but it I'm going to branch out a little bit about. I'll go, if you don't mind, if you'll indulge me, I'll tell you the story. Basically, my dad always had a kind of influence over the games and over the consoles and things like that. At the end of the day, between him and my mother, they were the ones that bought the things. You know what I mean? So of course they had an influence in things in terms of how what games were bought and things like that. Naturally, if I had the money, be it birthday monies and stuff like that, then obviously I would get some games. But it was really interesting because my dad, he always wanted to be interested, and he always showed an interest, and he always tried to be involved. And sometimes that would manifest itself in in the strangest ways. I'll never forget when I had my Sega Saturn. At one point, I had, for a world record for me, I had 17 legitimate games. That is to say, fully boxed with manual and everything. And I was kind of proud of that, because this was, don't forget, I'm not earning any money. I'm like 13, 14, 15 years old, whatever it is. I can't remember. Yeah, it was 96 sort of time. So whatever that is, maybe like 15 or something. So as you can imagine, I'm not earning any money, so whatever I get on birthday money or whatever goes on the games. I remember my dad's at the time, he's quite an outgoing lad, he's quite an outgoing man, to be honest. He enjoyed, he enjoyed the party atmosphere kind of thing. And I'll never forget, he came home, and in fairness to him, I don't think he'll mind me saying this, but he was a little bit hammered, to say the least. And he had a bag full of stuff, and I'm like, what is in the bag? And he just sort of threw it at me and he said, enjoy. And I'm like, well, what is it? And there was just a shed load of Saturn games. We're talking, if you go back to the era, I mean, these games, there would have been about £20 or £30 at least each. So he must have spent somewhere in the region of about a ton on games for me, which was shocking. I think my mum got a little. I think my mum got a little bit annoyed about that, to be honest. But yeah, I was completely overwhelmed, as you can imagine. So one of these games, well, quite a few of these games were, shall we say, they were the kind of games that your parents would have bought you. Not necessarily good games. One of the games was Crypt Killer. If anyone has any understanding of either the PlayStation conversion of the game or the Saturn version of the game, they'll know what it is. It's basically a light gun game. It's a shooting game by Konami. It is supposed to be kind of a little bit Lethal Enforcers-esque. But the basic premise of it is it's kind of all your cliches to do with Indiana Jones and fantasy and that kind of thing. It's a little bit simplistic even for an arcade game. You basically shoot the crap out of cliched bad guys like skeletons, mummies, zombies, bats. All the kind of cliched things you'd expect in Indiana Jones-esque movies. It was, by all intents and purposes, it was a crap game. However, I didn't have much else to play. I'd played pretty much everything else to death. So I'm playing this game, and in my heart, I know it's not brilliant. I know it's not good. You know what I'm saying? I know that the game is not going to change worlds or change people's opinions of even the Saturn, because the Saturn was kind of failing at that point anyway. But in terms of how it made me feel. It made me feel really appreciative, and it made me feel really good. My dad was showing an interest in something which parents don't normally show interest in, and it was kind of validating me playing it, kind of thing, and it was just nice, and it was great because you could get my dad. I'd say, "Dad, look what you bought me. It's brilliant." And my dad thought, "Wow, he's impressed." You know what I mean? So I showed him a little bit of appreciation, and it all worked out rather nicely. The truth of the matter is that the game was, by any standard that you like to measure, it was poo game. It was a bit poop, to say the least. However, it got me thinking, and I still play Crypt Killer to this day, and I still enjoy it. And you may be asking, why would I enjoy a crap game? Well, when I started playing the game, I was really fortunate to have the light gun. I had the virtual gun, you know, that big blue crazy gun thing. I had one, so I was dead lucky. So I'm using the gun, and it's reasonable, but it's not. I'm not getting something out of. I'm not getting into the game, if that makes sense. I'm getting maybe past the first couple of levels to a boss, and I'm not getting any further. The gun is not doing me no favours, which ironically was one of the criticisms of the game, is the fact that you actually do better on it with the joypad. I got to thinking about it. The game is digitised from images that are already digitised, if I recall the blurb, if I recall what went on at the time. So it was a digitisation of a digitised image. So as you can imagine, the graphics look like shash. They look like stoppy-starty pixelated blobs, and it was all a bit of a mess. All of that mixed in with kind of like this, that cheap kind of tacky 3D where everything clips into one another and kind of merges and stuff like that. It was a bit of a mess. You couldn't save your high scores. There was not a lot you could say to recommend it, right? And then I did something that I'll never forget. It stays with me to this day, and that was the options mode. Normally, don't bother with the options mode in most games. I tend to stick to normal difficulty and the default settings for most things, typically. However, I'd played the game to some extent. I'd played the gun. I was kind of frustrated with it, and I was just fiddling around. So I put the game to the absolute hardest setting, and I plugged in my controller, and I started playing. Now, normally, with light gun games, when they make the difficulty harder, they usually do something arbitrary, like make you have to shoot the baddie twice as many times, or give you half as much health. It's usually something really arbitrary like that, right? Not so with Crypt Killer. Crypt Killer triples, virtually quadruples the amount of baddies, and it turns the game into a slaughter fest. Alright, admittedly, what you're slaughtering is random blobby pixels and crappy 3D, but it heightens the tension, it heightens the fun factor, and for whatever reason, you actually break a sweat. Maybe that might just be me, I don't know. But if anyone, I can only imagine the PlayStation game is exactly the same in terms of the option mode. But if anyone's ever played it, they'll know, if you play it on regular difficulty, it's kind of like, yeah, whatever, blah, 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 and you're pumping bullets into things, and it's like, you just, yeah, whatever, it's irrelevant. You put it on hardest, and the game becomes something. Yeah, it's still, it's still not brilliant. You still want to be playing something more better in every sense. But at the end of the day, if you was lumbered with this game, or if you happen to have this game through a fortunate situation with your dad like me, then you would want to get the most out of it. So when I played it on this hardest mode, I was just like blown away. I mean, it turned the game into something more, and I found myself getting addicted to it and found myself playing it more. And then another flaw reared its head, in the sense that the game repeats itself over and over again till you literally die. That's the only way to stop. The game just repeats itself over and over again, which is unbelievable. I completed the game about 3 times before I thought, hang on a minute, the score's going to max out, or whatever. The game conceptual. The game, technically speaking, was awful. It was shoddily made, and that will go with me to the grave. I can't believe a game like that exists. Even back then, I can't believe a game like that existed. It was so shoddily done. It was unbelievable. But for whatever reason, I got something out of it more than what I think anybody would have intended. And it was simply changing an option. So it just got me to thinking, are crap games truly crap? We live in an age now where people collect games, right? So if you own a crap game, is there something that you can do to get more out of it? I sort of, the reason I'm saying it this way, and the reason I'm sort of saying crap games aren't necessarily crap, as in dismissive, is because I'm a bit of a fan of ninjabearhug. There's a link on my heroes section on my channel, and ninjabearhug does SMS Quest, Sega Master System Quest, and basically he's got, I think he has got now every single PAL Master System game. He's got every single PAL Master System game, and basically he's playing through each one and doing a video of it. The idea is get all the way to the end, complete it, any secrets, kind of show them, basically showcase the game, and complete it, kind of thing. And the ratio, the games that he's chosen so far from the list, the ratio of good games is kind of small. Of the 12, I think he's done about 12 games now. Of those 12, the majority of them are kind of, some of them are bad, some of them are real lame ducks. The thing is, though, is that he's turned each of those bad games into something worth playing. And a case in point is the Back to the Future 2 game. It's virtually unplayable. The game's a mess, right? And he even says as much. However, he puts a little high score challenge on there. He gives the game a reason. He gives the game a purpose for being. And I'm just thinking, we are all, I'm assuming that most of the people that are going to watch this are all collectors. So what I'm saying to you is, bad games, isn't there something more to a bad game that makes it as appealing, if not more so, than a good one? Daikatana is a famous game. John Romero and his team at Ironstorm, well, they hashed it, totally arsed it up. And there was such crazy shit going on. There was like so many different aspects to the game that were finished. There was so many bits of the game that were supposedly good points that ended up being awful. The game was a mess, and it took ages to finish. The whole thing was just a protracted mess. So, yeah, basically, long story short, when the game was released, it basically failed. Everyone said it was an unmitigated disaster and all the rest of it. However, having said that, we look back on it and we look at the history of it and we look at all the aspects of it, and it becomes an interesting tale, it becomes an interesting thing in itself. I'm thinking about Daikatana now, so I'm thinking, what about that game? What's it all about, kind of thing. So I've never played Daikatana purely because of all the bad reviews. However, since I've gotten my collecting hat on, so to speak, I may revisit that game. Basically, I just find crap games interesting. And I just think that there's you can do stuff with them, you can give them something and make them more, if that makes any sense. I'm probably just talking shash here now, so I'm going to draw it to a close. But what I'm going to say to you guys is this: if you've got any games that you think are rubbish, let me know. Have you found anything interesting about them? Maybe an Easter egg, maybe a different option setting that's given the game some longevity or given the game some life that maybe it didn't have before. Are there any games that are unmitigatingly crap and cannot be revived for love and the money? me personally, I love underdog machines, and I love underdog games, and I love the idea of a game that I think lesser games have a place, because if anything, they're the most interesting ones. Why was the game rushed? Why did the game miss vital aspects to it? Blah blah blah. So let me know, guys, what you think. Basically, are crap games truly that crap if you look hard enough? And there we go. Alright guys, I'm going to leave it there. I'm babbling just that little bit too much. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload this as is. It's just a bit of an opinions thing. And yeah, let me know what you guys think. Hopefully we can have some nice comments about it. You know, tell me if you think I'm a crazy man. Tell me all that good stuff. And yeah, see how we go. Alright guys, have a good one, and see you on the next.